Voices in the wall. A huge fog came out of nowhere and saturated the cruise ship while sailing along the edge of Bermuda Triangle. It stimulated a discussion among the crew in the bridge as they looked out. "Glad we weren't heading towards it. So many had disappeared," said one of the crew members. A passenger of a room complained about hearing voices, and the staff came to investigate. At first, they thought one of their neighbors from both sides might be the culprit. So they knocked on the rooms and found the passengers were still half asleep. But this old lady refused to give up and insisted that she heard crying and screaming, sometimes close by and sometimes in the distance. So the officer helped the lady move to an upgraded room, and her complaint ceased. The officer was curious and went back to the room and re-examined, but all was quiet. He called the cleaning staff to straighten the room. The housekeeper came, and within just a moment of cleaning, she heard voices too. She figured it's probably from the other room and didn't think much of it. A new launch began, and the questioned room was cleaned and ready for new passengers. This time, it was boarded by a young married couple. But less than 24 hours, a call was made from that room. The husband declared that his wife was missing. When an officer came, he told him that she was in the room when he went to take a shower. And when he came out of the bathroom, she was gone. At first, she thought he went for a stroll and feared the worst, that she may fell overboard, but her wedding ring was still on the nightstand. She never leave without her ring, he insisted. He even added that after he got back from searching for her, he heard her yelling for help that sounded like in the distance at one point and very close by another, so close as if she was right in the room. The officer was dumbfounded by the similar complaint and once again went to the neighbor rooms where they were unoccupied. He suggested that the distressed husband be moved to a different room while they investigate, but he refused to leave and insisted to stay until his wife came back. The officer realized that it was time to report to the captain, who after a moment of thought followed the officer back to their room. The captain met the husband and offered him a reassurance that they will do their best to bring his wife back. The captain intercomed the crew to begin search for the wife while remaining in the room with the other two men. "Who was the last person that cleaned this room before the couple moved in?" asked the captain. So they summoned the cleaning staff and asked if she heard anything strange. She admitted that she did and added that her partner was missing. As they continued to discuss, the captain suddenly hushed everyone and said, "Listen." A female moan penetrated through the wall. The captain proceeded to follow the voice by pressing his ear and his hand against the wall. The voice continued, and this time they heard two. The husband exclaimed, "It's her! It's my wife!" The captain continued to trace the voice along the walls, and suddenly his hand went through a spot in the middle of a wall adjacent to the front door. The housekeeper shrieked. The captain's hand disappeared, and as he reached further through the wall, his arm disappeared too. The housekeeper placed her hand over her mouth, trying not to scream, while the other two men stared stiff at the captain's remaining upper arm. The captain pulled his arm back and circulated his wrist till he found the edge of the opening with his hand, still through the wall. He told the officer to get him a marker. After he marked the edges, he stood back and noticed the 4-point corner, which was an irregular rectangle average of 5 feet wide. The husband broke the silence. "What are we going to do?" The captain calmly told the officer to get a rope and a flashlight. He tied the rope around his waist with one end and had the officer hold the other end. He carefully stepped into the hole one leg at a time, and as he stood completely on the other side, he yelled back, "Can you hear me?" The officer replied, "Loud and clear, Captain." The space was dark, so he turned on his flashlight. He saw nothing but dust that lit by the light. And as he walked further, he found himself in a decline about 45 degrees, but the degree increased as he walked further. He told the officer to hold on tight with the rope as he slowly walked downward. The ground was soft, like a thick foam that sank his feet. He tried to walk in a straight line while feeling the air was getting thin. He started to yell the woman's name. "Maria," the missing housekeeper's name. "Mrs. Cooper," the missing wife. "Can you hear me?" Suddenly, the two voices simultaneously yelled back with echoes that seemed to come from all directions. "We're here! Help us!" The captain couldn't see them and began to run the flashlight in all directions. He yelled, "Do you see the light?" "No." The captain moved the light side to side. "How about now?" "No." He moved the light upward, literally behind his back. "How about now?" "Yes," the women yelled. There was no time to ask himself why they could see it from the top when he couldn't really tell which direction the voice was coming from. He just simply told them to follow the light and the sound of his voice. Suddenly they screamed as if they fell. The captain encouraged them to stay calm and follow the light and his voice. They shouted that they can't see the light anymore. So the captain moved the light downward. Apparently they fell and landed to his front view. "Hurry, Captain," said the officer. "The hole is closing in." The captain began to see two heads and soon the rest of them. He told them to grab his arms, and as soon as they held on to him, he told the officer to pull as hard as he could, and they all came through the hole. Sighs of relief filled the air in the room. The husband embraced his wife, who was in tears, and the housekeeper calmed her whole co-worker down. The officer called to the captain. "What is it?" the captain replied. The officer knocked on the area that was once an opening. "Look, it's solid now." As the captain went back to the bridge and resumed his task, he stopped for a moment and reached for a map. He studied it and ran his index finger along the borderline of the Bermuda Triangle and remembered the fog.